It's been a minute since I filmed a video, so we're gonna see how this one goes. But if this is the first time you're seeing my face, hi, I'm Paige, and I am currently trying to work through all of the unread books on my shelves. I started the year off with 241 unread books, and so far I have acquired a couple, I've unhauled a couple, I've read a few. So I'm here to give my March update, what I've read, what I've acquired, because I've been acquiring books, unfortunately, and what I unhauled. Just like I warned at the end of my February update, March wasn't exactly the best reading month for me. I had a lot of social obligations, so I just did not read the amount I normally would if I was allowed to be a hermit in my room by myself, watching Summer House and reading. But expect more in April because I am going home to Barbados and I feel like I tend to read more when I'm there. Let's just get into it. I started the month off with 205 unread books, and I was very excited because I knew even if I didn't read a lot, at least I was gonna get under 200 at some point. And I was right. So 205 to start, but then I acquired 2 books this month as well. The resolve I had at the beginning of this year to not acquire books is slowly just being chipped away because some stuff is coming out and then there's like all these deals and stuff, and then yeah, we're gonna accept it for what it is and just hope that there are other books on my shelves that I want to unhaul. But the 2 books that I acquired this month are really good actually, which was like a pretty big book in the Toronto scene specifically, I feel like, because the author is Canadian and she was here. The author of Happy Hour does like these salons in Toronto where you go and like sometimes she shows films, sometimes she brings authors. So she brought Monica in to have a chat about this book. So I acquired it because I knew I was going to be attending that event. It kind of reminds me of Happy Place by Emily Henry, which I'm currently reading. But that was an in and a read in the same month. So does that really count? And the other book I acquired was Pineapple Street. This one came out in March and there were ARCs left over and I just grabbed one because it was one of the reads from the spring that had excited me when I first heard about it in launch. So I know I will read this eventually, and like I have access to the audiobooks, so I can definitely read this one too. Okay, so those are the 2 books that I acquired. That brought me up to 207 unread books, and I unhauled 1 book that I hadn't read. So those are the only ones that actually count toward these monthly updates because the ones I've read and unhauled doesn't really matter to my collection. I unhauled The Great Bear by David A. Robertson because I don't have a copy of the first book in that series, and the nonprofit that I ran, we were doing like little giveaway gifts for an event we were running, so I just added that to the books that we were giving away because I figured it would get a home, it will be read, just not by me at this time. It will be in the future. I just the idea of having to add another book to read that one, I was like, I'm gonna make my peace with this and I will read it eventually. So that brought me down to 206 unread books. But then how much did I read this month? Well, I read 12 books this month, which I thought I'd read at least 15, and I was lying to myself. That was February. I read 12 books in March. Most of them were mid, honestly. Part of the reason I didn't read this much this month was because the books weren't hitting, and also some of the books were longer than I was anticipating they would be. Like, they took longer to read just because of everything that I was doing. The only reason I was able to read 12 books is because one weekend I decided to spend a day reading a lot of short books as a challenge, and I read like 3 or 4 that day. And so I wouldn't have even hit the double digits this month if I hadn't done that, so I might have to do that again in April. I usually do like a favorite and a least favorite in these wrap-ups, so let me look at these books and see what was my, okay, I think my favorite is easy. My favorite from this month was If We Were Villains. I literally sobbed at the end of this book in a way that I rarely ugly cry anymore when I'm reading. I like do a little tear here and there, but this was like full on, there was snot, like it was bad. So I really enjoyed this one. It surprised me because I remember coming out of my room after reading the first 40 pages and telling my roommate, like, I'm actually hating all of these characters. I don't know how I'm gonna read this entire book. They're insufferable. And lo and behold, she did something. So least favorite. That one's a little bit harder, I think, for me. I literally just lied through my fucking teeth to you because I just saw this book in the stack and realized this was actually my least favorite read of the month, and that is A Duca Lady and the Baby. I haven't talked about this one yet because I need to do a proper wrap-up of all the books I've been reading. This, I had such high hopes for, and I think that's why it's my least favorite, because I was a dumbass and didn't read the back of this book and didn't realize there was like a weird element of like widows who have like their own secret society. This is truly it's not you, it's me. It's me. This probably is great. It just was not for me, and I should have known from the title alone, and I did not listen to it. So that's it. That was my least favorite of the month. I did read 2 other books that don't count toward the 241 challenge this month, and those were I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. That one I got from the library on audio, and my roommate also had the physical library copy when I had to return my audio, so she let me finish it using that copy. And then the other book that I read was her Household Book Club, and that is The Sword of Kaigen. If you were at that live show, you know it wasn't my favorite. And Sword of Kaigen was a 24-hour long audiobook, and I listened at 2.6 speed and it still took me 12 hours. So that is definitely part of the reason I only read 12 books, because I spent the last week of March reading Sword of Kaigen. So that's part of the reason where I'm like, I might avoid some fantasy in April just because it does take a lot longer to read. So now I have actually reached the 100s. We have 194 unread books left on my shelf. I do not plan to acquire enough books to ever go back in the 200s within the next however many months it takes me to finish this. I feel like I'm gonna be able to get back into my reading routine again this month. I'm going to Barbados, like I mentioned, at the end of the month, so whenever I'm there, I tend to read a little bit more. Part of the challenge for this month actually is going to be figuring out what books to bring with me. Probably a lot of smaller ones. I will be listening to audio. I do have ebook versions of like my workbooks that I can read instead, but I don't know, there's something about having a physical copy and reading it in the sun that just brings me so much joy, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, that's where we are at the end of March. Looking forward to see what April brings. I'm hoping to maybe hit a 20 again. I don't know if that's possible, but we're gonna try.